Who of you is actually writing tests on a day-to-day basis? Okay, see a couple of hands. Who of you is actually pushing it hard and doing test-driven development? Okay, and who of you knows a test suite like that? So basically, we have quite a lot of failing tests just because we changed something in somewhere. And I basically got a little bit upset with the fact that sometimes I have tests which fail because of changing requirements. And I basically thought to myself, what the fuck am I doing wrong? And then I started questioning test-driven development. And then I dug a little bit deeper and thought about, hey, how are other people doing it? Or how are other people really writing their tests, or the way how they write their tests, that not on every requirement change, the previous tests are breaking. And basically, I came up with the thing that the way how I wrote the test assertions had been problematic. And then I looked a little bit deeper and saw what is a test assertion at its core. And a test assertion is nothing more than a function which takes a value and tests if this value is truthy or not. And if it's falsy, then it throws an error with a message. And that's basically almost everything from the slides itself, because I'm going to do a live coding session then to show you what I mean with writing other or better test assertions. And I basically came up with a scenario where I'm writing an employee management system for a local grocery store. And the owner decided he wants to open up the store on Sunday, and for this he wants to have a report of the employees, because not all employees are allowed to work on Sundays. And so this shop owner calls me and says, hey, I want to have an application, or I want to have a report of my employees. And we compiled this user story out of it. So as shop owner, I want to view a list of all employees which are older than 18 years old, so that I know who is allowed to work on Sundays. And that's basically the kickoff for this live coding session. I have here a test suite which is green right now, and I already have the employees mocked here. And I'm going to write an employee report function, which is then returning me all employees which are older than 18 years old. And looking at the first requirement, as shop owner, just copy that one here. As shop owner, I want to view a list of all employees which are older than 18 years old. So I would write a test assertion, a test description. Employee report returns employees which are older than 18 years. So here we go. Okay. First, I'm using an assertion library called Hemchest. Why I'm using it, I come to that later. I would write assert that employee report from the employees equal to, and then I'm having a look. The first employee, which is over 18, is Sepp, so I'm saying employees number 1 and employees number 3, because Mike is also older than that. So the first thing is employee report is obviously not defined. So I'm starting here, const employee report gets employees, and I would start with a simple filter. So return employees.filter, employee, and let's look at that, employee.age greater than or equal to 18. So let's look at our test. Test is green, everything works well. So we call it a day, and the next morning the customer calls again and asks me, hey, it would be so nice if this newly created employee function would sort them, or would be sorted. So we compile the next user story and say, as shop owner, I want the list of employees to be sorted by their names so I can find employees more easily. So forgetting about what I did yesterday, I start off with a new test. So just put the test user story up front here and say returns employees which are sorted by their name. Okay, start off with the next test assertion, assert that, generate employee report from the employees. And those should equal to, we look at the employees, so Mike is obviously before Seb, so we return employees number 3 and employees number 1, sorry. So obviously this one test is now failing, returns employees which are sorted by their name. So we go to our implementation again and sort our employees. We make it a b, a.name.local compare b.name. So we run the tests and our tests are failing, but now the weird thing is that our newly created test is obviously green, but the previous test is failing for whatever reason. So let's have a look on what the previous test is saying to us. And looking at those things, it's pretty obvious that this can't work because here we're depending on the order of the employees which are returned. And here we're explicitly sorting them. And so what we can do with Hemchest is that we can use a different matcher, they are called, to write our assertions. So I can now write here contains in any order. And let's look at the tests. And both of them are green again. So the only thing what we did now is that this test is checking for everybody who is above 18 years old, and we don't care about the order. And below there we care about the order. We're going to see that this is also not the perfect way to do it, but that's in the next requirement most probably. So we deploy this to production. Customer is happy. A couple of weeks later, he calls me again and asks, hey, I print this out, and because I have such a bad site, I want the names to be capitalized so I can read it better. So we say, hey, absolutely no problem. We write another test for that. So we say it. Let's just put the user story up front here. So we write returns employees which names are capitalized, like that. Okay. Issue. And we write another assertion like assert that. Employee report from our employees equal to. And then we're writing the first employee we want to get back is obviously Mike. So we say employees 3. Name is Mike then, capitalized. And we also have the same thing for the one which is Seb in our case. So we run our tests. Test is obviously broken because we didn't implement something. And we go back up here and say employees.map, employee. Then we do something like that, employee. And then the name, we just say employee.name to uppercase. I think. So let's have a look. So 2 tests are failing now. So we basically implemented the solution for our test we wanted to do, but the other 2 are now failing. And looking at the first test, it's also quite obvious why this is failing, because we are matching for the age and the name, and not only taking care about the age. So what can we do about that? In Hemchest, there is this one matcher which is called every item. So we can do something like that, every item. Then we can compose another matcher out of it with the name has property, age, greater than or equal to 18. So remove that. So one parenthesis is what? No, here we go. So look, what? Thanks. Read item. So here we go. Okay, looking at this one test, this is now green again. And what I really like about this way to compose the test assertions is that this now reads almost exactly like the thing I have here. So I say assert that employee report, every item has property age greater than or equal to 18. And looking at the test description, that's basically what the test description is telling us. So we have an exact match of our assertion with the way how we write, how the test description is called. Having a look on the other test, there is obviously another matcher for it. So we can say the employee report is sorted by, ordered by. I always get confused by that matcher. And then I can say A, B, and A.name must be smaller than B.name. So let's see. And all tests are green again. So we're good to go. Yeah.
I have a question. So what you're doing here right now is you're writing code in your test which looks pretty much like the code you write in your real code.
Not at all.
If you fuck up your employee report function and return an empty array, none of your tests will work.
That's one of the things I'm going to discuss afterwards, because in that particular case, one test is missing. But yeah. So the next thing is this capitalized thing. Now all our tests are green, so we are basically kind of good to go. And then basically the last requirement comes in, and that says, as shop owner, I want the employees to be sorted by the name descending instead of ascending, because for whatever reason. And that's basically, for us now, a pretty simple fix. That we say, hey, we just turned it around. And here in our implementation, we can do b.name, a.name. And here, basically, our last test kind of fails again. And there is also one thing where we can do every item. And we can say has property, name. And this is one thing which is not the most pretty one, but I can show you how we can do that a little bit prettier afterwards. So, and here we can say matches pattern. And we're going to use some kind of regex, which I never learned by heart before. So it's, I think, like that, A to Z, and then like that. And we will see how we can make that a little bit prettier afterwards. So
that matcher will fail for many reasons.
What?
No, it works for your case, but it will not work for a special case.
Yeah, but it's for the tests right now. Yeah. Basically, it's for our test data we have at the top here. But yeah, I think it's the other way around. So,
No. You need a plus or a star.
Oh, true. Thanks. So, and basically, this now doesn't read too well. And one nice thing about this approach is that we can extract this into something else. So, call is capitalized. And capitalized, so something. So something like that. And then we can read it again. Good, we just put it here. And we're basically good to go. So as you already mentioned, one of the issues is that right now I'm missing one test, because if I'm just returning an empty array, all my tests are green. So everything's fine still. And in this one particular case, one can write the first test, which says returns any employee, or returns at least one employee. And then just do something like that. And say has property length greater than or equal to 1. Okay, and we're good to go. And now one of the nice things about this test suite is regarding what is failing. So for example, I fuck up the sorting for whatever reason. Exactly one test. Okay, that was because it's already sorted. But for example, I fuck up the filtering or the mapping. Let's go see the mapping. Then exactly one test is failing. So I say returns employees which names are capitalized, and I exactly see what's wrong with my test suite. And the same goes for sorting. Right now the sorting it's already in the right order, but yeah. So that's basically almost everything I have. I wrote a blog post about this thing, how to compose test assertions out of it, the library I'm using, and I have the source code here. So if you have any questions, feel free.